Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. Terrick El Guindy with the Mr. Olympia. We are here today with a two-time 212 champion, Shawn Clarida, one of the most dominant performances in the history of the Olympia. This guy absolutely dominated. Shawn, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and that is Shawn Clarida's appearance. He's going to be back. Can you hear us now, Shawn?
Sorry about that. That was Matt calling me.
All right. With us also, the voice of bodybuilding, the 2000 Mr. USA's Bob Cicherillo.
What's up, everybody? I got a chance to call out Shawn a few times on stage, so this is pretty cool.
And with us, four-time Arnold Classic champion, the 1992 Mr. USA's, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all times, Flex the Legend Wheeler.
Thank you. You forgot one.
Which one?
The best pro debut in a history of the sport. Of the sport.
That is very accurate. Since you won the Ironman Classic, you won the Arnold Classic, and you went on to place second at the Mr. Olympia. So I'm going to correct my introduction.
You forgot to. I also won the French Grand Prix and the German Grand Prix.
But I wasn't even born back then, Flex. So give me a break.
You know what? Accept it.
So, hey, Shawn, first of all, congratulations. What an amazing victory. It was a dominant performance. Unanimous. All the judges overly impressed with you. The experts in the industry, Bob Cicherillo, Flex Wheeler, everybody overwhelmed by one of the most dominant performances. Talk to us a little bit about how you felt on stage.
Man, I felt amazing. Obviously, I had a lot of motivation going into the Olympia. Obviously with losing the title and the chance to win it back. My baby girl being born. I felt great. It's the best package to date. Made a lot of improvements from last year, and it felt good to get the title once again.
Very nice. Hey, Bob, was he the most complete bodybuilder in the 2022 Mr. Olympia?
Listen, it's a very valid argument. I mean, if you go for the pound for pound or that type of argument, Shawn Clarida has every right to make that argument. But, Shawn nailed it, man. I mean, he didn't get crazy. We got a chance to talk the day after at the seminar. And, Shawn is very businesslike when it comes to his approach. He knew he didn't want to put on 10 pounds or 12 pounds. There was no need to. He put on a few pounds, which is great for his frame, filled out, but more importantly, came in with that trademark conditioning. And that's what it took to win this title. But he's a very smart bodybuilder when it comes to the business of bodybuilding and what it takes to bring 100% on game day. It doesn't make any difference if you're big. Hey, I put on 10 pounds and all these stories you hear from a lot of these bodybuilders. It doesn't, listen, that makes no bit of difference. If you want to be 10 pounds heavier and in 8th place, I guess you can do that. Shawn was smart.
Yeah, Flex, you had a chance to interview him after the show. You did the pay-per-view. You watched a lot of these guys. Did you think that Shawn Clarida's performance at the 2022 Mr. Olympia was the most dominant performance?
I do. And Shawn could tell you what I text him, I think the day after the show.
Yeah.
I said, bro, you could have been competitive and possibly won the open division by the way you looked. So now saying that, you should jump your ass over into the Arnold and take that 200,000, son.
Well, I don't know if you've seen it. I'm into the Arnold, and it's actually 300,000 now.
Yeah,
I know. I seen that they raised it to 300,000. So wait a minute, this is news to me. I don't know about anybody else. You're going into the Open 2000. What?
Yes, sir.
Hell. Oh,
so
man, smart guy.
Shawn Clarida has accepted his invitation to compete at the Arnold Classic. In addition to that, the Arnold Classic, they have increased the price for $300,000. So the winner is $300,000. That's all good news for Shawn Clarida because he is by far one of the most dominant competitors. Now, what we have to see is that now you have a teammate that appears to be going to the Arnold Classic as well.
Yeah, I just saw that today. Listen, business is business. That's it. Is what it is. You know, we could be friends off the stage, but when I get on that stage, again, it's all business. So I'm there to beat everybody that steps on that stage. Period.
So there's no friends. You don't like Nick Walker. You're just gonna beat the hell out of him before prejudging and take the 300,000.
Listen, we can be friends before stage, and after I win and beat him on Saturday, I'll take him to breakfast on Sunday.
Nice.
Hey, Bob, here's the thing. First of all, we have here, I believe here, Nick's Strength and Power here. Nick's doing a great job. And then I'm Brian Powers. The $300,000 is an incentive to get competitors to do the Arnold Classic, is a nice incentive. Now, Bob, let's get down to business. Nick Walker will definitely be the mass monster there. But Shawn Clarida is the giant killer. And Shawn Clarida has more aesthetically pleasing lines. He has been very consistent with his conditioning. Now he's going to give up a lot of size to Nick Walker.
Yeah.
Would you change his strategy?
No, I'll speak for Shawn on this. I know Shawn well enough to know, and he's going to echo exactly what I'm going to say. No, he's not going to change his strategy at all, nor should he. First of all, he's smart to not change his strategy. As far as he's concerned, they're chasing him. Secondly, he has competed in an open and won an open show at the Legions, which I was fortunate enough to be there and call, where he beat two guys that were significantly bigger than him, in Regan Grimes and Sergio Oliva. So it was his quality and his separation and his conditioning that beat those guys. Now, listen, they weren't tier one guys at that show, and I say that with all due respect to both gentlemen. Nick Walker is in a different league, okay? So was Bonac, who, even though he blew it at the Olympia, you can't discard this guy because he's been up there at the Arnold, right? I mean, he was right there last year, arguably could have won it. So Shawn's got his hands full, but for him to play anybody else's game other than the Giant Killer's game would be a huge mistake, but he's too smart for that. He's going to go in there at, I don't know, whatever you were at the last show, 180, 181 pounds, and he's going to be 100%, and they're going to have their hands full. Nick better be 100%. Whoever's going to win this better be as close to 100% as they can, or Shawn's going to take him out at the knees.
Flex, you've dealt with a guy that was bigger than you, Dorian Yates, and you had to compete with him. And in previous lives, you said, if I had kept the physique that I had in 1993, I would have had a better chance than chasing the size game against Dorian. Can you elaborate that and put that in perspective? Shawn Clarida versus Nick Walker at the Arnold Classic?
Yeah, all due respect to Nick, I like him. I send him messages and everything. Like the guy a lot. I've always said this. It's about matchups, right? It's about matchups. And I always felt if I was ranked number 2, I can go into any show and win as long as that number 1 guy didn't show up. I've already came out and said it publicly that I felt Shawn would have been a great argument for the open class. So now saying that, I don't actually see, I don't see a competition here. Obviously everybody has to do their job, but I don't see a competition here. I don't see a competition. Long as Shawn does his job, they're going to be chasing him. And I mean, no disrespect to nobody whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen a competitor consistently place money, meaning be in the best shape of his life as much as Shawn has at a very short career. I think Shawn knows what he's doing. He don't need to listen to us whatsoever. I don't actually think he needs to come in, at the Olympia condition to actually win this show. I think he can mess around and fool around and come in a little bit fuller and not fatigue his body so much and be able to win this show. But I'm sorry, I don't see a competition here based on the guys who are in the show. Now, if somebody else jumps in, okay, maybe, but nah.
So Flex, just so I get this right, even if Nick Walker is there, you still believe that Shawn Clarida is the favorite to win the Arnold Classic?
Let's ask this question. And Bob already said it. Didn't Shawn already whoop 2 guys bigger than him? And I would argumentatively say they were ranked higher than Nick is, right?
No.
No?
No.
At that point in time.
Well,
Point in time.
Nick was,
So-
I'm not so sure Nick was even competing as a pro at that time, but,
You mean
let's not.
last year? I mean, the year before last?
This was Nick was just, I think it might have been his first year as a pro, but don't forget, Nick took fifth in the Olympia in his first year. So yeah, Nick is much, but listen, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. This is not a two-man race. If Samson Dauda comes in under, I wouldn't be worried about Nick Walker. I'd be worried about Samson right now.
Agreed.
Hey, Shawn, going back to your 212, you dealt with Kamal El Guindy and Angel Calderon from Spain. Obviously, Kamal is one of those guys that brings crazy conditioning. And Angel Calderon, he's one of those guys that he has already won an open show, and you have now beaten him. Now, going into the 2022 Mr. Olympia, did you really care if Derek Lunsford was going to be there or not? Did that weigh any decision on you being on the 212, being on the open, or you just made a decision of being on the 212 and whatever happened, you just went for it?
Yeah, no, Derek's decision didn't change my decision whatsoever. I was ready for whoever would be there. I knew that the 212 title was something I was gunning for. After losing it, I had a sour taste in my mouth for an entire year, and I got back to work after losing it and made the improvements I needed to make, and was headed into that 212 Olympia with on a mission to get that title back. So no, it didn't matter who was showing up that day.
So Bob, I like to put you in awkward positions.
That you do.
If Shawn Clarida is on the open bodybuilding at the 212, at the open bodybuilding with the same physique that he won the 212, where does he place?
Well, that would be interesting. And this is purely a case where you'd have to see them next to each other because, with all due respect to my old friend, Flex Wheeler, what you got here is there is a difference, okay? Yes, Derek and Shawn Clarida were very competitive at the 212. They've beaten each other. Same for Kamal El Guindy, who was also going to be in this show in the open, so we can't take him out because, again, Shawn and Kamal have gone back and forth. But the difference is this, okay? Shawn Clarida, if he was in the, hypothetically is what you're asking, in this year's Olympia in the open, would be giving up a significant amount of weight. Now, yes, he has beaten guys bigger than him, but they weren't at that same quality. So you'd have to see Shawn standing next to Nick, standing next to Hadi, standing next to Big Ramy and all the other guys that are up there. He has given up a significant amount of size. Now, we had seen this pan out at the Nationals, at the USA, shows like that, where you'll see a damn good middleweight until the super comes out or the heavyweight, and they stand next to him. You go, oh, okay, Now, Shawn is clearly an exception to the rule because his physique is so stellar that he overcomes that lack of size to these guys and can stand with anybody toe-to-toe. How that would match up against the better quality of guys, you're going to see it play out right here. No, it's not the Olympia, but you know what? It ain't far off. And you've got, like I say, Bonac, who's a bona fide top guy. Yes, he took a stumble this show, but let's not get crazy. You don't count him out. Again, Kamal El Guindy, who is also now in the open and is obviously is a former 212 champ. Samson, who I still think is the most dangerous guy at this show because his physique is outstanding. And if he can get himself, if I tell you what, if he gets Shawn Clarida conditioning, with all due respect, Shawn, it's over. Now, whether he can get the hit or not, we haven't seen yet. But that's why you play the game.
Well, Bob, your best friend Milo Sarcev, he said that Samson Dauda does have a thicker skin, and that possibly it would be very challenging for him to get as crisp as some guys as Shawn Clarida. If they both have the same physique, Shawn Clarida had the same physique as the 212, and Samson Dauda got in with the same physique, who are you picking?
If hypothetically, if Samson Dauda had the same exact conditioning as Shawn Clarida, then he beat Shawn 10 times out of 10. No offense, Shawn.
Agreed. But if you make it even, you got to give, if you're going to give him Shawn's conditioning, then you got to exchange his height for Shawn's. That only makes it fair. And I'll then say
that's a fair point.
Yep. And if they're all 100 against each other, I got to lean towards, Shawn here. We can what if all day, but
Yeah,
like
of
Ronnie
course.
used to say, and Janet Jackson, what have you done lately? So
Right.
if I was Shawn, and I don't think he is doing this, I don't look at a person and worry about their potential, right? Or else we would have been terrified of Paul Dillette. Good grief, right? I look at what have they done and what have I done, and based on that, like I said, it's always about matchups. So of course, if Jensen is if Andrew or somebody like that comes in with that type of condition, it's about matchups. What are you going to do? But I don't think that's going to happen. I haven't seen it yet.
Here's the cool thing. Like you asked initially, Terrick, if Shawn had to play the side game. No, actually, it's the opposite. Samson has to play Shawn's game.
Condition game.
Because if Samson doesn't have Shawn's conditioning, or at least competitive, listen, not everybody can get that kind of conditioning, folks. Let's just keep things real here. Okay, that's an art in itself. That said, Samson has to play the Shawn Clarida game. He has to get himself down enough to get that conditioning to be competitive where he can try to beat Shawn Clarida. So it's completely the opposite. Shawn can go in there, coast exactly how he normally goes into a show, doesn't have to change a damn thing, goes up there, and they're going to have to beat him.
100%.
Shawn, my question to you is, you have about 3 months. 3 months, well, it's maybe 11 weeks. Now, obviously, you just came out of a great performance, but are you foreseeing any modifications?
No, not at all. Like Bob said, I play my own game. I know what works for me and what got me here. So obviously, we had a little rebound after the Olympia, but right now we're starting to bring things down a little bit, and we're gonna bring that same look we brought to Olympia, if not better.
Okay, Bob. Going back to you, so you can lose followers. Flex is very high on Shawn Clarida, possibly being the favorite.
Yeah.
You're saying that Simpson Gauda is going to beat him. My question to you is, do you have Shawn Clarida on the first call out?
Oh, listen, that's
Bob
not even.
didn't say that.
That's
Bob
not
didn't
even.
say
No,
that.
I didn't. That's not even debatable, though. Listen, if Shawn, I'll tell you what, I'll eat my freaking hat if Shawn Clarida is not in the first call out. Okay, that is an absolute bank on it. Okay, bet the house that of course he's going to be in the first call out. Samson's going to be in the first call out by his. Listen, he was 6th place. Nick Walker's going to be in the first call out, and like I said, you might as well throw. I can't imagine that the Conqueror William Bonac isn't going to rebound and come in strong on this outing. Don't be fooled, folks. That's not a 9th place guy. Okay, he blew it at the Olympia. I'm pretty sure he knows that. Much like Shawn said, losing left a bad taste in his mouth. If you don't think Bonac's got a bad taste in his mouth right now, he wants to avenge that. This is a guy that arguably should have or could have won last year against Brandon Curry on that same stage. So look for those guys to be in your first call out. And we're going to see right off the bat, can Shawn hang with the big boys? And again, now, this is the Arnold Classic lineup. Yeah, we don't have a couple of guys, but you do have a couple of guys. Listen, Samson was 6th at the Olympia. Arguably could have been higher. I could have had him as high as 4th. He's that good. So I'll tell you what, Shawn Clarida, you want to kill a giant, you kill that guy. You can beat a guy who could have been 5th or 4th in the Olympia, man. That's making your mark, right?
Sorry, I don't see that happening.
Shawn, here's my question to you. Who's your favorite giant killer of all times? Sean Ray, Mohammed bin Aziza, Flex Lewis. Who's the guy that you aspire to be?
Growing up, it was always Flex Wheeler and Dexter Jackson for me. Those were the guys.
Check his email, Playboy.
Obviously, I told Flex backstage, he knows that. But as far as like Dexter goes, like he started off like I did as a smaller guy, and they said he'd never make it and he'd never do it, and look what he's done. So, those are two guys that I've always admired, looked up to, and tried to idolize as far as my physique goes.
Who was the best short guy that you always liked, Shawn?
Lila Barada, the original Giant Killer, Danny Padilla, Benaziza.
Sure.
So, yeah, those guys.
Yeah, I just had a message from Sean Ray. Sean Ray is never bitter about anything in his life, but he just sent me a message saying that anybody that picks Mohammed bin Aziza over him as the best 212 is crazy. Now, Bob,
yeah.
Including Shawn Clarida, who are your top 2 giant killers of all times?
Well, you're just mentioning it. Shawn Clarida and, well, now when we say giant killers, okay, now I don't know if we keep Flex Lewis in that conversation because he didn't really venture out of the 212 smartly. Again, this guy's a 7-time champ. I don't fault him for that. I think it was a smart play. So I'm gonna keep this to who were the actual giant killers. Danny Padilla coined that phrase years ago because this guy at 5'2" and his eyes weren't blue. Took out Pete Grimkowski and guys that were 6 foot tall and all that. That's where the moniker came from. So you got to put Padilla in the mix. You have to put Shawn Ray in the mix, even though there wasn't a 212. If there was, this guy could have been an 8-time 212 champ. And I got to put Shawn Clarida in there by the fact that not only is he now a 2-time champ of the 212, but he has already taken out a few of these giants, and he might slay a few more coming up.
I know you have a lot of resentment against Shawn Ray, and I just want to add that. Who's your favorite giant killer of all time? Is it Shawn Ray? Is it Mohammed Ben Aziza? Is it Lee Labrada, Rich Gasperi? Is that a title that Shawn Clarida can eventually have?
I think so. I think he already has that title.
You think Shawn Clarida is the greatest giant killer of all times?
No, I think he's in an argument for that already. It's hard to say of all times. I don't really believe in that, right? Even when people say it include me in it, it's very hard, right? But I'd have to go on what have they done? Not their potential, but what have they done? And if you mark it up like that, then it's going to be Shawn Ray. Second would probably be Lee Labrada, because what have they done? Not our imagination of how we like them, how great they could have been or whatever. What did they do when it came time for competition? So that would be Shawn Ray because his existing longer. And then it would be Lee Labrada because he placed and existed longer than everybody else. He beat Rich Gaspari, so we can't bring Rich Gaspari in that. The true giant killer of old times who invented that, if you match him up against his best against Shawn would win. So for me, in my era, Shawn was a true giant killer, and that's what he did. He slayed guys like Paul Dillette, even beat me before. So when you say that, it makes sense. It's a professional show. Listen, like Bob said, the USA or the Nationals. It's plenty of times where either the middleweight or the light heavyweight came and slayed the super heavyweight. So it's not about how big you are. It's about how good you are, how your body rolls, how good condition you are, your muscularity and everything like that. So I think that's a no-brainer. And I think Shawn Clarida is already included in our argument. And I think he'll seal that conversation if he goes out and do what we think he's going to do at the Arnold Classic and the Olympia next year.
Now, Shawn, my question to you is this. You like to call yourself the giant killer. You say that with a lot of pride. You won the 212 Olympia, which is a phenomenal title. But now you're getting the invitation to go in the Arnold Classic in the Open. Is that where your career is going? Are you planning on staying on the 212, or are you actually saying, to hell with this, I'm going to be an open guy and just kill every guy that comes out of shape?
That's a hard decision. I think that answer will come after the Arnold, how things go there for me.
Yeah.
Once I see how I do that, then that decision will be made.
Yeah, smart answer.
Well, yeah, I think once the Arnold comes in, then we'll see exactly what happens with Shawn Clarida in the future. Bob, I mean, you predicted that Hadi Choopan was going to win the Olympia, and you're a cocky jerk off. You always like to take a lot of credit for stuff. We're gonna have to give you credit for the next year. Where's Shawn Clarida placing?
Where's he placing at the Arnold coming up?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a real good question. If I had to bet it, I mean,
it's a good question, Bob, but I need a really good answer.
He's going to be in the top 3.
So who do you have winning?
Well, right now, again, we just heard that Nick Walker is entered, correct? Now, what other top names we have? We mentioned Bonac. I mentioned Sampson. Who else do we have up there? Do you have a list in front of you?
Kamal Elgarni, William Bonac. I know Blessy and Charles Griffin are not doing.
No, they're out. They're out. So given who I know right now, I got to give the nod to Nick Walker because he was third at the Olympia in the Open. So on paper, he would absolutely be the favorite. Now Shawn loves knocking guys out there their favorites. That's what he motivates him, right? And the key is, yes, he's going to be losing about. I don't know. Nick Walker's got to be what, 235, 240 pounds. So, you got a substantial amount of muscle, and Nick Walker can get the conditioning that Shawn has. Now, what Shawn has that Nick doesn't is Shawn has better symmetry. Shawn has better proportion. Shawn has better shape, presentation. You can toss up in the air, but Nick Walker is no pushover. And again, guy who's top three. This is what I'm saying. If Shawn Clarida can knock out a guy who was third and sixth in the Olympia respectfully, that is a huge accomplishment. I mean, that really puts Shawn in another category of, okay, now you actually really got to decide, right? If you could be the guy who was third, you could have been second, right? Maybe you could be first in the Olympic. Then he really has a decision to make. Hypothetically, if Shawn Clarida wins the Arnold this year and beats and in shape everybody, okay, he's now got a huge decision to make, and that is, obviously it worked out pretty well for Derek Lunsford, right? Does he throw his hat in the Open at the Olympia and vacate the title, or does he go back to defend the title? And that would be a huge commitment and decision to make at that point. I think it would be great either way, Shawn. I mean, I wish you the best with it, but right now on paper, Nick Walker, if he's entered, is the favorite.
Hey, Shawn, I have a few questions that also are going to put you in a very awkward situation.
Okay.
Do you have a problem that Nick Walker, who's also trained by Matt Jensen, is doing this show, or it's business? I don't care. We're just going to battle it out on stage.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. It doesn't matter who shows up. I don't care that we have the same coach. I trust that Matt's going to prep us both the same way to be at our absolute best and let the judges do their job. That's all that matters.
And here's another question. Derek got an invitation to compete in the Open Olympia. Let's suppose you do really well at the Arnold. Do you expect an invitation? Do you put pressure on an invitation, or are you against invitation?
No, I'd rather earn my spot there. If I can't win a show and get there that way, personally for me, I don't deserve to be up there. So again, if I win it, then obviously that's a big decision I have to make. But for me, I'm not going to go and ask for an invite.
What do you think about that, Bob?
You know what? I got a lot of respect for that, and that's not anything against Derek. I mean, listen, could Shawn Clarida get an invite? Listen, if you open the door with Derek, you have to give one to Shawn Clarida, a two-time champ, a guy. Again, let's just say he took second at the Arnold. I mean, listen, it's very admirable. He beat some of the other guys. That's great. I do admire his wanting to earn his way there. I think that's good. I'm not a fan of invites. Okay, unless it's the invite, it should be a special circumstance type thing. You're a Kevin Levrone, you're a Flex Wheeler, you're a legend in this sport. You want to come back or something. I have no issue with that whatsoever. Or even like the other year with a Big Ramy or Cedric McMillan, rest in peace. Again, there was extenuating and special circumstances beyond those invites. Past that, I do not like the idea of just giving one out just because the guy looked great at a guest posing, or, hey, man, the guy's got the potential. That's not what this system is supposed to be for, and that's the reason that we have a qualifying system. So I think it would just be cool because that really puts Shawn in a real interesting predicament at that point. Like I said, if you and Nick Walker are 100% and you beat him, this guy was third place at the Olympia just a month, 2 months ago. I mean, that's a huge, interesting dilemma, right? Of listen, if I just beat a guy who was third, I mean, at that point, I almost think you have to give it a shot just to do it. Why not?
I'm not getting any younger as well. So, I mean, it's definitely, I definitely eventually see my career going into the Open. Maybe, again, after this Arnold, it may be a quicker turnaround. So we'll see.
Well, Shawn, it would be cool if you actually send an invitation to Derek to join you at the Arnold. How about that?
Nah, I respect the decision for not doing it. I understand why he's not doing it as well. I think he's smart. Obviously, he's got a chance to win it next year, and he wants to take that time to prepare. So I respect that 100%.
That's it. Well, here's the reality, Bob. I know Derek, he was fantastic, phenomenal at the Olympia, but Derek and Shawn Clarida have gone back and forth winning these titles. So, I mean, we look at Derek and we say Derek placed second at the Olympia. It's a
Yeah.
great placing, but you also got to take in consideration guys like Shawn Clarida and Kamal El Guindy. They beat Derek, and both of them competed in open shows, and they demonstrated they're capable of beating big guys.
Well, let's keep things real here, okay? Derek, there is some differences here, okay? And I'm going to bring out one of those right now. Yes, Derek obviously has beaten Shawn and Kamal. They've all beaten each other, okay? And they're all Olympia title winners. That's great. There is a difference, though. Derek Lunsford's frame is much bigger than Shawn Clarida's frame. Derek Lunsford, second place at this Olympia, was not 212 pounds. He was 230 pounds. Okay, that's a 20-something pound difference in muscle that his frame can carry. Shawn Clarida knows and is smart enough, as he just mentioned earlier, cannot put on 20 pounds of muscle. It can't happen. It's not going to happen. And if it did happen, he would look like a fire hydrant out there, and he wouldn't be your 212 champion right now. Okay, he doesn't have the frame to put on another 20 pounds of muscle. He knows that. He's smart enough to keep it where it is, bring the best physique out there, and that's going to be his best chance to win this title or any other title. So there are some differences when you get to, okay, well, can Shawn Clarida stand up there with those guys? Well, some of that you're going to see right now. Nick is a formidable opponent, third in the Olympia. He's a little bit shorter, which a little bit closer to Shawn's height. That's going to help Shawn out a little bit. It's apples and oranges when it comes to physiques. Nick is all about muscle and graininess and all that stuff, and very Branch Warren-like and all that. But he was not blessed with the best genetics when it comes to pure bodybuilding. Shawn Clarida has everything that Nick doesn't. So if both these guys show up, the judges really got a competition on these hands. It just hypothetically it comes down to these two guys. But Shawn to take that leap, listen, it's purely a leap, but I think it's great. And I think, Shawn, I agree with you. Nobody's getting any younger. I say at that point, you go for it. Listen, you might as well. You beat the third place guy, hypothetically, and then, yeah, go for it, man. Like, what do you got to lose at that point? You've established yourself. So, absolutely.
Well, Flex, I have a question for you. There's a first call out, and Shawn Clarida is between Nick Walker and Samson Dauda. Does he change a little bit his posing? Does he do exactly what he did to the Olympia? Is there a way to attack some of these other guys that are bigger than you, but you possibly have more conditioning, more lines? Because here's the reality. Shawn Clarida has displayed more consistent conditioning than Samson Dauda. That is a fact. It's also a fact that Shawn Clarida has more aesthetically pleasing physique than Nick Walker. So there's two criterias where he beats one guy and beats the other guy. With that being said, does he change his posing if he's between those two guys on the first call out of the Arnold?
You guys already said it. I don't know if you know it or not, but you already said it. You already said Shawn wins. Bob, you're talking about what Nick has, and you talked about what Shawn has. But Shawn has more than Nick does, right? That's what you just said. Size, symmetry, all that stuff. So there's absolutely nothing that Nick can do other than be Nick and come in extreme muscular shape, right? But you've already said Shawn or Nick powers, right? What all his powers are. And then you said what Shawn did. You already made the argument that Shawn wins because you had Shawn winning on 4 categories and Nick only winning just on conditioning. They say that they match each other with conditioning. Then it goes back to those other criteria he has. He's more pleasing to look at. He's more aesthetic and all that. So secondly, as far as the question that you asked me, Terrick, dude, you don't fix nothing that's not broken. Why in the hell would you? You never worry about your competitor. You have absolutely no control over him. honestly, we have very little control over ourselves. So why in the F would you worry about another man instead of doing your job? Simple as that. You don't change shit. You go in there as a champion. You go in there and do what you're supposed to do. And I think you're going to walk away as a winner. You'll make me a liar if you don't. But I believe that you are. I don't even see this as a conversation whatsoever. Because,
listen,
again, it's about matchups.
Listen, boys, there's a reason I said that the most dangerous man here is Samson Dauda. Because Samson Dauda is Shawn Clarida at 5'11", 6 foot tall.
Agreed.
He has the shape, the symmetry, the proportion, the muscularity, right? The ability to display it. All those things are rolled up into one. He's got things Nick doesn't have. He's got things that Shawn does. Again, if you were to take these guys and mold them together, like I say, he's a blown up. Shawn, if you were 6 foot tall, that's what you would look like. Okay, so this is the guy you got. Again, now can he do it? We haven't seen it come yet. He's been close. I thought he was great at the Olympia. I don't think he missed it by a whole lot, but you know what? That's why they played the game, and this is the IFBB Pro League. You know, welcome to the family, boys. Right? This is not an easy road to hoe right here. If Samson can nail it, he's got to play the Shawn Clarida game, though, right, Flex? If he don't have the conditioning, he's out.
And kind of like what Milos already echoed. And I've noticed that also some people just genetically or hereditarily, skin is a lot thicker.
Yeah.
I'm look at the great, Black Prince, Robbie Robinson, incredible, but his skin was always skin for whatever reason, it was always too thick. So we're making an argument when there isn't one factually. We're saying if
of course.
For everybody else, no disrespect, for everybody else. When Shawn consistently does what we're thinking these other people are going to do. So again, I don't see an argument. We never went off of what a person is capable of. We always went off of what he's capable. I mean, what he's doing currently, and Shawn wins that. So again, I don't see an argument here. No disrespect to the other guys. Of course, if Samson came in extreme conditioning, I would even say probably like about 98%. He's going to beat Shawn simply because, like what Sean Ray always said about me, he's a bigger version of me. What can I do about that? Only hope that he doesn't hit his mark. Shawn has not missed his mark in a long time. Even argumentatively, when he lost last year, I wouldn't really say that he was off his mark. I think what it was he was going through some things mentally because of what had happened of a loss. That'd take anybody in a tailspin.
Well, and let's just to further up on that. And Shawn, I give you all the credit in the world. I have never seen Shawn off at a show. Okay. Shawn Clarida continues to be the most consistent guy on the circuit. And so does Nick Walker so far in his short career. Both of these guys come in and they are the two most consistent guys that are going to be on that stage at the Arnold. Shawn, you did not lose the 212 because you were off. You look great. Derek won it because he was on. And he's got a bigger frame and a bigger X frame. And listen, he nailed it. Good for him. I know you were the first person to congratulate him. You know, you took, you were very professional and you took pride in losing just as much as you've ever taken in winning. And good for you for that. But I've never seen Shawn off.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Shawn, why was this the best performance of your life? What happened this year that you brought a package that was unprecedented? We've never seen Shawn Clarida like this. When you won the Olympia, you were dominant. But this time, it was absolutely incredible.
Honestly, it was the motivation knowing I had a baby girl coming. Honestly, that was the biggest motivation I had all year. I needed to be able to obviously be there for her, take care of her, support her, and just want her to be proud of me. So this win was dedicated to her every single day from the start of my prep until the very end. And there were days where I would wake up tired, didn't want to do the cardio, but I knew I had to keep pushing and had to keep working because my goal was to be able to hang that medal up in her room.
Well, that's very nice. Very nice. So, Shawn, I'm a father. I have a little girl. Bob, you have a little girl. Flex, you have a little girl, right?
he's got a big girl.
Yeah, I have little great grandkids. Yes.
Okay. So Shawn, now that you have a little girl at home, you're going to be waking up in the middle of the night to change some diapers. You're gonna have to be feeding the baby. You're gonna be helping, your wife and everything. Is that even more motivation, or you think that could be a little bit more challenging at this point?
No, my girlfriend is super supportive. So honestly, right now, because she's obviously nursing the baby, she's letting me get my sleep and she's taking care of the baby for the most part. She knows what the goal is. So right now, she's letting me do whatever I have to do in order to be my absolute best for this show.
And
You
if
know
you
what?
get,
Now, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I'll echo that. I was one of the few who had kids while I was competing. All I would say, Shawn, is enjoy every moment and enjoy the ride because it changed so quickly. I remember Darius like wanting to sit in my lap and eat my food and how frustrating I'd be. But how beautiful is that? So don't be like me. Enjoy every bit of it, right? Every bit of it, man. Your first daughter, your first child, and you can go make 300 G's, man. Enjoy that ride. Take pictures of it. All that. Take videos of it. Have your girlfriend take videos of it because trust me, they change really quickly.
Yeah.
She's coming to the show, so you guys get to meet her.
Look forward to meeting her.
Shawn, in my opinion, and I know Sean Ray is watching and he's bitter down in Newport Beach with his Camus wine. But in my opinion, the greatest Giant Killer moment in the history of the IFBB Pro League was when Mohammed bin Aziza defeated Dorian Yates at the Night of Champions, something that Sean Ray didn't even do it in his dreams and still crying about it like a baby. Okay. Now, Bob, if Shawn Clarida wins the Arnold,
right?
if Shawn Clarida wins the Arnold, does that surpass what Mohammed bin Aziza did by beating Dorian Yates at the Night of Champion?
Now, let's not get crazy now, okay? But well, listen, first of all, let me categorize this, okay? First of all, I actually don't have that as the number one. I can go back to Padilla, okay, and when he got coined as the Giant Killer because he was taking out guys, again, at 5'2". Back in the day, I mean, the fact that this guy was able to win major titles, the Mr. America, the Mr. Universe, against guys that, again, were 6 foot tall, and Grimkowski and some of these other guys back then. That's what started it all. Ben Aziza was very impressive, but again, I got to defend my boy Sean Rand. Listen, I know he didn't actually get the win, but you could easily make a case that Sean should have beaten Dorian Yates, and that was when Dorian Yates, okay, was in the prime of his career. But I got Sean Ray beating him all day long, at least for one Olympia.
Your mic, Terrick.
Nope. Looks like we've lost Terrick's microphone.
Yeah.
Flex.
Here we go.
That's you.
Flex, going back to you. If Shawn Clarida wins the Arnold Classic, is that the greatest Giant Killer display in the history of bodybuilding?
I think it's up there with it. I'm not much of a historian like you guys are, like Bob. So I of course, I heard of Danny, but I never seen him in face-to-face or I'd seen him compete. It's hard to do that in photos because you don't know if that person is flexing all the muscles at once. I say he goes into the argument, which is massive.
That's great. I think your mic is muted, Shawn. We want to have you give the final word here. Shawn, go ahead and give us the final word to your family, your girlfriend, your daughter, all the people that supported you with this absolutely dominant performance. And go ahead and let the competitors at the Arnold know what you're going to do with them on stage.
Listen, it's been an amazing year. Obviously, from winning the Olympia to have my baby girl and to now be entering my first Arnold Classic. It's been a surreal year. We've had a lot of great things happening, and we're looking forward to finishing off this year with a trifecta, winning the Arnold Classic championships in March. Great
job, Shawn Clarida. I had the chance of judging Shawn Clarida twice when he won in 2020 and when he won in 2022. And I'm going to say this, okay, clearly. Let me put this on record right here. In the 2022 Mr. Olympia, the most dominant performance by a bodybuilder was Shawn Clarida winning the 212. It was more dominant than Hadi winning the Open. It was more dominant than Chris Bumstead winning the Classic. Shawn Clarida absolutely destroyed that freaking stage. My name is Terrick El Guindy with Olympia TV, with the voice of bodybuilding, Bob Ciccarillo, also with the legend, Flex Wheeler, and the most dominant man in the 212 and in the 2022 Mr. Olympia, Shawn Clarida. I want you to subscribe to Olympia TV right now. Otherwise, your life will be miserable. Once again, subscribe to Olympia TV. Thank you, Shawn. You are the man.